Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Miasin. So one thing that I keep noticing every single time I make these kind of videos is that people are really interested and really happy when I make advice, tips, tricks videos. So what I am actually suggesting is maybe if I actually start uploading them more often, maybe once a week instead of like once every month and a half, that would be actually a win-win because you guys are showing me your appreciation and I appreciate you being appreciative, if that makes any sense. So of course I'm going to give you 5 other tips and I guess tricks in order to increase your win rate by avoiding misplays and stuff like that. So of course, before you start, friendly reminder to like, subscribe, blah blah blah, and let's get into it. So this one is honestly not tricky. A lot of people actually kind of already know how it works, but you actually have to learn how to sniff out Imperial Order and cards like that, because if you have a back row removal like MST, Cosmic Cyclone, Twin Twister, etc., it's actually better to use your other spell card as a bait, as a sniff, and then if they chain Imperial Order, then you can actually chain your quick play back row removal in order to get rid of the Imperial Order, because if you actually do something like this, Cosmic Cyclone first, if they actually go Imperial Order after, well, now you have no way of actually clearing that order, and your search card, or whatever other kind of spell card it was, is actually going to be dead. So in the exact same way you have, let's say, Harpy's Feather Duster and Cosmic Cyclone, actually use the Harpy's Feather Duster first, and then if they have Imperial Order, then you go Cosmic, and boom boom boom, you lost everything. So pretty nice. Let's get right now into tip number 2. This one is actually pretty similar. This is tip number 2. So in case your opponent has something like a shared ride, usually this would also kind of work with Maxi, but with shared ride I can kind of demonstrate this a bit better. If you have a back row removal and a search card, so kind of the exact same cards as tip number 1, well, I want to say it really depends on what kind of, I don't know, what kind of situation would be the most beneficial for you and the most non-beneficial for your opponent. So in case you actually really want to get rid of this back row before actually using any search card, and then try to see if it's indeed a shared ride, well, you keep your search card in your hand and you don't let your opponent draw a single card. Or what you could do is actually not waste your back row removal, so use your search card first, and then your opponent, I don't know, draws one card, and then you don't have to overcommit, and you kept your back row removal. So it's really just a matter of deciding which one is the most ideal for you. But a lot of people actually wouldn't actually think about this and would probably, I don't know, just use all of their search cards and also waste their back row removal. But these cards are chainable anyway, so if you use a back row removal, well, you are going -1 in theory. Well, rather 1 for 1, but you go -1 the second your opponent draws even a single card. So definitely the kind of thing that you have to keep into consideration. But anyways, let's get into some slightly different tips. Tip number 3. Alright, so this is actually a pretty clever usage of, let's just say, something like Ice Dragon's Prison. A lot of people might actually not know how to kind of abuse this card as much as you possibly can, because the effect isn't just revive back a monster from your opponent's graveyard and then instantly banish the monster that you revived and a monster your opponent controls that has the same type. It's actually a bit more in-depth than that. So first of all, you don't have to banish the monster that you brought back with Ice Dragon's Prison, and second of all, it doesn't even necessarily have to be the monster that you brought back, and it can be a completely different type of monster. So again, a bunch of things that you have to keep in mind. So right now my opponent is properly summoning Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. I'm going Torrential Tribute with my baby Ceresaurus, summon Overraptor, whatever, search anything. And then what's going to happen is that my opponent is going to go double Evolution Pill, enter the battle phase, and then I'm going to Ice Dragon's Prison, steal his Conductor Tyranno in his graveyard, and I'm actually not going to banish the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno that I just stole. I'm going to banish the Overraptor alongside his Conductor, so I can actually keep my own Conductor on the field. And yeah, sure, the effect is negated, so usually that would kind of be a bummer, but exactly like Crackdown, if you're playing a deck like Subterror or anything that can flip monsters face down, well, Book of Moon would be a great way to restore the effect of the stolen monster, either, again, like from Crackdown or Ice Dragon's Prison. So when I flip it face down and I flip it back up, now it's back to being a real conductor with the actual scary effect, which is really, really cool. And it just adds a whole new dimension to Ice Dragon's Prison that I love so much, because this card is already a fantastic card. It outs Dragoon, it outs so many things, it banishes without targeting, and it just gives you so many options. So this is something that I like a lot about the card, but it gets even better when you start using it this way. So pretty nice. Let's get right now into tip number 4. Alright, my opponent just showed me Anti-Spell Fragrance, and he also has Skill Drain, True Draco Apocalypse, there can only be one, and I guess a Monarch Stormford that he can't use because Demise had to make him discard his own hand. So even if he had a Draco monster, it wouldn't have done that much unless if he actually tributed over one of his monsters, but because of Skill Drain, maybe not ideal. I don't have the best hand. I have Photon Thrasher, any level 4 monster that isn't Warrior or something else. Beaver Warrior. And then Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and I can tell you right now that I can actually technically out my opponent's board, but at the same time, I might not be able to out it. So this is a double tip because it's going to help people with this kind of hand beat this kind of board, but also with people with this kind of board, prevent people with this kind of hand from breaking their board, which kind of looks complicated, but don't worry, I'm going to clear it up in literally 5 seconds. So of course, I'm going to special summon Thrasher, normal summon my Beaver Warrior. My opponent is going to be scared of me randomly going into Warrior Beast Warrior shenanigans, so he's going to there can only be one right now, but it doesn't matter because the next monster that I'm going to summon is Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. This card during my main phase or my opponent's battle phase, once per chain, not once per turn. You can detach one material from this card, destroy every card on the field outside of him, I believe, and you can't inflict damage to your opponent until the rest of the turn. Well, technically it's your opponent takes no further damage, so even if he uses a card that inflicts himself damage, he wouldn't actually take it, I think. But also, by the way, you can only use this card when your opponent has like more cards overall than you, so if you're like ahead of him, you're not allowed to use Exciton Knight. And one thing about this that I like a lot is that it actually has a random synergy with Ghost Ogre, so you're going to see this right now. I'm going to go Evil Storm Exciton Knight effect. He's going to chain Skill Drain. I'm going to be like, okay, there was nothing I can do about this. But now, something kind of sketch is going to happen, and a lot of people won't actually be able to kind of identify that this is a play and that this changes games single-handedly. So I'm going to use the effect of Evil Storm Exciton Knight again, and the reason why I want to do that is because I want to Ghost Ogre myself, so it actually resolve while being in the graveyard, no longer on the field, and Skill Drain only affects them while they are on the field. So I'm going to be able to dodge the Skill Drain and effectively destroy every single spell or trap my opponent controls. Now, there is one thing that I want to clear right now, is that I kind of used, again, I did something really sketch and bait, right? I used the effect of Exciton Knight when it was negated. So usually good players would be like, uh-oh, I think I can smell something weird. I'm just gonna, I don't know, flip Apocalypse or just flip a random card, just like that, just so I can, stop you from using Ogre on yourself. It's literally that funny, but if my opponent just changed True Draco Apocalypse there, he actually would have been able to completely avoid this, but he did it too late. He chained it to the Ghost Ogre. You should have actually chained it to the Exciton, even though it was already negated. So because of that, my opponent basically just lost out on every single one of his back row. That is absolutely huge. So again, this is basically a double tip, so for both, either, I guess, True Draco or Trap players, and people who play Exciton with Ghost Ogre. Beautiful, let's get into tip number 5. Alright, this is a really interesting one because, again, not a lot of people do that. I don't know, the end result of the game could have been completely different if they just played a bit better, but because of the fact that they kind of gave a chance to their opponent to play for longer, they kind of knew that their opponent wouldn't be able to do anything for now, but not necessarily for forever. So let's just say I have Zexal, Solemn Strike, I guess a Hand Shop, and Neuron Network. My opponent just is playing Pendulum, so no Hand Shops, nothing that I have to be really scared of. My opponent just goes normal summon Magical Abductor Pass. There's technically nothing I can do, right? I mean, it's Zexal, so I can't use the effect on my own turn, but one thing that I can do is actually, if I really want to OTK my opponent, which is technically possible, I can try to strike myself by normal summoning something else, and then making a Link 2 and then striking, or I can summon Zexal in the extra monster zone, and then make Gravity Controller, and then strike it. And the reason why this is so relevant is because Neuron Network Network can only use its effect when you control no monsters. I believe that's the... No, I don't think that's Neuron Network's effect, but rather Neuron Culling, so you won't be able to copy Neuron Culling if you have a monster, so meaning that striking yourself is actually the winning move here, and because of that we can successfully summon 4 monsters. Then because of course, all those effects of the gates, we can double their attacks. Our opponent was under Zexal, so the most he was able to do was just summon a monster. Even if he just set a monster, that probably would have been enough, unless he set a monster with like less than 1,000 defense. But yeah, because of the fact that we were able to battle a monster twice, we were also able to double the attack of all of our monsters twice, so pretty damn insane. And that's just one of so many interesting plays that you can do if you kind of just think outside the box. So I hope this tip video was able to help you out in any form, and if you already learned, if you already knew about all these tricks, well, good for you. Actually, that's a good thing. And yeah, I mean, thank you very much for watching. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, blah blah blah. Really motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these, and that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.